note that Commissioner Bonick and Casper are on the phone. I call the special meeting budget hearing August 22nd to order. Agenda number 3, open the public hearing on 2024 City of Herington budget.
At this point, I don't know that I have a whole lot. I would open it up to comments and see where we're at from the public, and then I'd like to have a discussion with the commission on where we're at, where we've been, how we got here, and how we're moving forward with this budget as presented. Hoping to get some solid answers tonight of where we want to be based on the public feedback, and go from there.
Janet, would you like to speak? Name and address, please. I don't sound like it.
As a preface, Herington is in its current financial state largely due to many decades of deferred maintenance. In part because there was a stated objective to keep taxes low and too little emphasis on maintaining our assets. And then over those years, there was also a lack of planning for major infrastructure upgrades. I think one of the key things, whatever the tax rate ends up being, is to spend the money wisely, ensure that our city employees have the training that they need to make wise decisions, and to seek professional direction when it's appropriate. I would like to compare and contrast the funding that is included in this budget for the lakes versus the parks. For the lakes, there's been a total of $120,000 over the last 2 years. In the general fund under capital outlay, $15,000 in 2023 and $40,000 for 2024, and under special projects like Lake Master Plan, $50,000 for 2023 and $15,000 for 2024. In contrast, for our parks, which are in town, used by our youth, have clear safety issues. For example, at Father Park, the stairway is deteriorated and unsafe. The bandstand needs a new roof and needs masonry repairs. The spring area needs maintenance and basically being rebuilt. The retaining walls there are along the stream. Kids use the rocks like they're Legos. And that's a safety issue as well as an issue with keeping the stream flowing clearly. So for our parks, under the general fund capital outlay, there was no funding in 2023, no funding identified in 2024. Under the special park fund, there is $2,500 for 2023 and $2,500 for 2024, for a total of $50,000 over those 2 years. So $120,000 for our lakes and only $5,000 for our parks. So I would encourage that we take a close look at how we're spending funds on our public recreation spaces. A couple other things, if I read correctly, the 1980 and the 2006 sales tax funds will be mostly depleted at the end of 2024, with 200,000 out of that identified in 2024, leaving a balance of around 77,000. And the 2010 sales tax identifies the I read it, $138,000 being used in 2024, and that will completely deplete that fund. As I read the budget, the utility funds will have reserves at the end of 2024 of $48,000 in the solid waste fund. I think that begs the question: do we need to continue to raise the fees for solid waste disposal? There's $1 million in reserve for the light fund, $106,000 in the water fund, zero at the end of 2024 in the sewer fund. The budget also identifies $8,000 for 2024 for stormwater drainage improvements. As an engineer, I pay attention to how drainage works when we have large rainfalls, and that appears to be an insufficient amount for maintaining our stormwater system. The discussion of the reserves that we have left, I identify that because, as you know, there's nothing budgeted for comprehensive plan. And one of the major items that is needed in a comprehensive plan is a thorough description and evaluation of existing conditions. And that's for the purpose of identifying and developing the budget, being the information for future needs. I mean the development of the capital improvement plan. It's a good thing there's reserves here, but we know how we will be needing to spend that at some point in the future. A couple other comments on the non-budgeted funds. There's $151,000 in the cemetery fund. There are drainage issues, and none identified to be spent this coming year. There are drainage issues. There are significant safety issues with unsecured gravestones. There are some that a toddler could probably lean against and they fall over. And then I'm curious, there's a non-budget fund of donations, and $44,000 is identified for capital outlay. I'm curious what that's identified for. Thank you.
Janet, the capital outlay on donations, that was the money that was donated by the hospital. It can be used for what the hospital designated it to, which was pool, Christmas decorations, and park improvements are the three things. And then as for the cemetery perpetual, that cemetery non-budgeted fund can also be spent. It just isn't, it's a non-budgeted fund, it's not broken out like the rest of them.
Thank you, Megan. Does anybody else want to speak on behalf of the budget? Agenda number 4, discuss the action of the 24 budget. Thatcher.
So we're here tonight after a number of meetings, 3 budget workshops, opportunities to speak at the commission meetings, and I think the consensus was of this commission that we have to present a strong budget. You know, inflation has hit us hard, like it has everyone. We have to be able to maintain the level of comfort we're providing for our residents currently, but also we have to think about the future, and not just a year in the future, not just 2 or 3 years in the future, but 10, 15, 20 years in the future. And, you know, to me, this budget presents a good way to turn the tide and put money away from the future while finishing some of the projects we already currently have, like the trail, items at the lake, maintaining our local parks. And I know streets and roads is a big thing, but that yearly budget only gets you so far. I think it's about $125,000 a year. We have roads that are going to require a lot more money than that to fix and to bring up to the standard our neighbors want. And that's going to require some extensive planning and budget and the CIP. and just really thinking towards the future in this budget. So, you know, I understand and respect the taxpayers that came last night and tonight and said that this seems high, but, you know, I think the money is being spent very well, and I think we'll look back on this budget and think that we got something out of it. So what I'm really hoping for tonight is a consensus amongst the commission on, are we ready to move forward in this budget? Do we want to make any changes? And in the coming weeks, staff can make any changes necessary to this budget to get it moving forward, and then adopt it sometime in September. Ultimately, we have to have an adopted budget by October 1st. So, you know, at this point, I'd like for the commission to express any concerns they have, any questions for Megan or I.
So we're at 84,585 right now, our last year's budget.
Correct.
So, well, last night we capped it at 90, so we can go anything below 90. I'm not comfortable with 90 at all. So I'd like to be in a range from 85 to 87, somewhere in that range. And I know we can tweak it a little bit on what we spend. I know we have to maintain what we got, but I don't want to jump that high. And that's my opinion only. And I'll let the rest of the commissioners speak how they feel. Ben?
Yeah, personally, I'm comfortable around the 85 mark as well. Anything over the 85 mark, I understand stuff we want, also stuff we need versus want. I get inflation hit us, but I am perfectly comfortable around 85. Anything more than that, I'd like to steer not too far above that. That's all I got.
Dan?
Well, I'm not comfortable with the budget at all. We have money in there that I think is completely wasted. We've got money in there that is being spent in the wrong places. I think it's way too inflated. And I'm going to use an example. I know there are people in town and that love to go to the lake. But you know what? Most people in town don't use the lake. I understand the argument that they want the lake for tourists. People aren't going to go to that lake and stay there. The lake should be a long-term plan, not a short-term plan. If we want people to come to Herington and stay in Herington, we need to worry about Herington, not the outlying communities, not the outlying surrounding areas. $125,000 for the lake is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And there's a lot of other things in here that, one other thing that really jumped out at me was when we were having the budget workshop, there was a question that I don't recall ever getting answered. And it had to do with the police diversion fund. There was supposed to be $6,000 in it, and when it was brought up, there was $0 in it, and nobody could tell me where that $6,000 went. So that's, okay, it could have been a bookkeeping error, and it could have been put in the wrong place. But you know what? That's not our money we're messing with. That's the people out there's money. That's the people that live out there's money. We need to be accountable for every doggone penny we spend and we want to spend. And I know we had 3 budget workshops, but I've spent a lot of hours dissecting this monstrosity. And I know you can't equate this to a home or business budget, but if I was the CEO of a company and I took this to my shareholders, I'd get fired. I would literally get fired. So my personal opinion is, if this comes up for a vote the way it is, I'm going to vote no. Because I don't see where the money's going that will benefit the community. I understand it takes a lot of money to do roads. I get that. I'm sure everybody else gets that as well. But the two main north-south arteries in this town are falling apart. You could literally lose a filling driving down Broadway by the store. That's pathetic. I get it. It's expensive to repair them. We need to start doing small repairs to get things passable until we can actually fix them. We need to hold Dickinson County accountable. How come they're giving Chapman all this money and we get none? How come they give Enterprise all this money and we get none? Why? Because we're not holding the county accountable. Well, we need to start. Just like the citizens need to start holding us accountable for the money we spend and where we spend it. If they want to spend the money, that's fine with me. But from what I heard last night, the majority of them said, not so fast. So unless we can come up with really good reasons, not just, well, I want or they need, we need to have really good reasons why we need to increase 14%. That, to me, that's not acceptable.
I'll comment on a few things really quick. I feel like we went through 3 pretty productive budget workshops, and I feel like we went pretty close to line by line in a few of those and discussed everything, and I think there was a lot more of, should we increase this a little bit than should we cut this a little bit? And I think we presented Megan and I presented as trimmed down of a budget as we really could have, and we feel that like potentially stuff was added in. And a lot of it made sense. A lot of it was, should we add 1,000 here or 500 there? We spent this much last year in this fund. Looks like we spent all that. Should we add a little more in? And those little bits and pieces add up pretty quick. The other topic was from the auditors, and we had direct recommendations from the auditors that we needed to improve the status of our general fund and employee benefit. Also, we needed to start adding to our reserve funds. That was a recommendation of the auditors. And they made that pretty clear, and I think, this budget reflects that. I think we based this around, we started at 87, and I think we based it around capturing most all of that 90. We're happy to work backwards, but I think in order to address the concerns that we have from the auditors, and then to present what this commission recommended to us as far as the regular department by department budgets, I'm not sure where we're going to trim very much. We can dive back into it in the next few weeks and certainly look at certain areas, but I'm not going to recommend dialing back on improving the general fund, because that was one of the most important recommendations by the auditors, in my opinion. So just wanted to comment on that. Happy to take some other questions or concerns.
I have a comment too. I apologize if I didn't answer your diversion fund question. That fund receives funds from people who apply for diversions who go through the municipal court. Our tickets have been up and down over the past several years as our police departments have kind of changed over the past several years. So we had anticipated getting a lot more money in for people applying for diversions than we did, which is where that money is. So it never came in. We had a handful of diversions, and we anticipated very many more.
Well, it was just disappointing that I know in one particular meeting, and I'm not faulting the chief, I'm not faulting the police department, it's a fact. They wanted something, they were asked, do you have the money in your diversion account? They said yes. Then we get to the budget workshop and there's big old goose eggs in there. So that's all I'm going to say on that. It's, they said there was money there, but when I get the budget, there is no money in there. So I don't know if it was spent And that was just the balance or what? But it didn't look right.
So in 2022, we only received $650 worth of diversions, and money was spent in 2022. In 2023, you know, we still had it anticipated there. We're not going to get 10,000 in 2023 either. But I can follow up with you tomorrow and let you know what we spent. I don't think it's anything this year because Chad is aware that we have not received very many diversions.
Okay.
So.
I will just say, you know, mills, I think around $11,000 or $12,000 is what it equates to. So, based on everything we've seen, and Megan and I have played with a bunch of numbers in this budget and gone back and forth, I think to accomplish everything the commission wanted to accomplish based on the workshops that we had, I think we're going to need to exceed by around 10 mills. I think we're going to need to exceed the R&R by about 10 mills and be around 88 or 88 and a half, roughly. Like I said, we can go back in, we can dive back in if this body wants to try to get a little lower than that, but really within 2 or 3 mills of where you're specifically wanting to be would help. And I know it's kind of a confusing process for everyone with the R&R, and we went to 90 saying we may not capture that entirely, but at some point, you know, we kind of based everything off of that number, and it's going to take pretty close to right at, I think, 10 mills over the R&R to accomplish these goals. So,
Deb, you got a comment?
Yes, I'm okay with the budget as presented. During all of the budget workshops, it was the consensus of the commissioners to either or increase or decrease in certain areas. And that was a consensus. It was not a majority agreement. I feel that in previous years, not faulting anyone that was on the commission at any time prior, but I'll go back to the water treatment plant, the sewer plant, that were on their last leg, and we did not have the money to fix them and go forward. Yes, there are a lot of things that we have had to increase. Employee benefits, you know, the cost of materials to do anything, especially on the roads. And I know the roads are always a hot topic, and I do know that we're constantly looking for grant opportunities in every area of the community so that we can capitalize on those resources. You know, it's just if we keep cutting the budget, we're never going to get ahead and make improvements for the future. We have to look to the future and help plan for future disasters or future breakdowns in equipment or major infrastructure. We need to plan for the future of economic development. I think that the commissioners as a whole did a great job in guiding the staff in this budget process. I, too, am on a fixed income, and I'm okay with paying my share of this. That's it.
Thank you. Eric?
Well, there's not a lot that I can say that hasn't been said by my 4 counterparts. Although I can say that we spent 3 workshops, several hours going over most of these line items by line items, cutting in certain places, adding in other certain places. We've had our wants added into this budget, not necessarily our needs. We've had our wants. I'm a little disappointed that the only comments I've received from citizens are, I'd like more roads, I'd like more things put into town, with no specifics. Personally, I'm of the mind frame that the city shouldn't have a single rock road in town. Whatever. And I'm of the mind frame that rather than put Band-Aids on things to make it look like we're doing something, we actually have to spend the money to actually give you a substantial project. Carl, you said last night you'd like to see improvements. How do we do improvements if we don't have money for it? You would like to actually, it's a rhetorical question. I'm using you as an example. Sorry, I'm throwing you out there on the land. So, yeah, I would like to see more money used to pave roads. I would like to see our roads actually drivable, not have to worry about, am I going to get an alignment every 6 months or so. I'd like to see more money spent on the parks. I think if you guys remember 2 city commission meetings ago, I literally said, give discs unlimited $5,000 because the city hasn't maintained their disc golf course. That's our disc golf course. That's the city's disc golf course. Why aren't we maintaining it? Why aren't we putting the money into the parks? Things that actually make a difference and can actually be seen by the community as a whole is an improvement. But if you're only putting Band-Aids on something, you're not making an improvement, are you? So, can we trim down some of this? Sure, but where do we trim it? I mean, we spent 3 days going over several things. I spent several hours outside of those workshops trying to figure out where's the want? Where's the want from the citizens? What's needed? What's not needed? Do we need to spend as much money at the lake as opposed to spending it in town? No, I don't. I don't honestly think we do. It's nice to have. It's nice to have. But that's a mile outside of town and nobody sees it when you're driving around town. Can we put more money in our parks? We have some availability, and it's in there. So if you're asking me what is a good number, the R&R is set at 78.390. This budget proposed is at 90. The 2023 budget is at 84.585, and we captured less per mil in 2023 than we are in 2024. So as we make improvements to the city, your tax evaluation goes up. Your tax evaluation goes up, we potentially can capture less mills because we're collecting more per mill. We can't do that without making the improvements, but we can't do that without having the money to make the improvements. There's not a lot that you can cut right now, but there's also a lot that we can move into more substantial things for the citizens and make those improvements that can be seen. One thing I'll note, how much is about almost 7 mils for the library?
Yeah. But it's chartered in, Brad, right?
It is chartered in.
It actually is less.
It's a little less than 7, I think.
No, it's actually down almost more than a mil, 5.363.
Right. And that's money we have to collect in taxes in order to have the public's library. Some of you guys were sitting here last night during the public hearing for the school, and they talked about how the published rate for the school is 39 something, when in all actuality they're going to be capturing 42 because they have to fund and collect taxes for the rec commission. The library is the same way. Our CVB is the same way. That's collected out of the bed tax though. So that's not taxes coming from you. That's taxes from the bed. The people that come into town, visit Herington, spend the time, spend money at the stores, spend the night, go to the lakes, do whatever. All in all, I don't know exactly where you want me to cut. What do you guys, as the citizens that are here tonight, really want cut out of this budget? That's a general question. I would love to hear an answer right now. Can anybody give me an answer?
We have to have a few more specifics on the budget in order to give you better advice on that. We can't just, I can't give you a, yeah, we should cut city hall, we should cut, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I gotta know some more specifics than that in order to make an informed decision, to give you an honest assessment, and not just throw something at you.
Right.
And the road, by coincidence last night, was just my example. I forgot to say that.
The roads are a hot topic for everybody, Carl, so I appreciate it.
But they're not the only place I've seen.
They're absolutely not.
There's roads everywhere.
So they're absolutely not. I don't think we're ready to pass this budget tonight. Obviously, there doesn't sound like there's even a consensus tonight from the commission itself. I think we need to give some kind of direction to city staff, but I don't know what that direction is specifically from me. Am I comfortable going down to 84? No, we can't do it. We cannot collect the same amount that we did last year, and under any circumstances, and still be able to follow the recommendations from the auditor and do the projects that the city wants. So, Megan?
We have a range, we have a range from Robin, Ben, Debbie. So if you guys have a range in mind that you'd like to throw out for us that we can maybe try to work on, that'd be great.
If you're asking me for a specific range, it'll be no less than 88. And I can go to the 90.
And I do want to comment on a few things where part of this is saving again for the future, because I believe, like Janet was saying, we're going to lose some sales tax opportunities. And I know a lot of people don't see sales tax favorably either, but a lot of times you capture sales tax from people sometimes that don't live here. So there's a benefit to that. And when you lose sales tax, you have to make that money up elsewhere. Pretty much the only way is property tax. As far as the projects, I believe this budget is saving a lot for projects, whether that be through the Special Projects Fund, which I think covers not only the lake, but the trailhead and preparing for that. I think it could also be utilized for demolition projects and beautifying our neighborhoods in Herington. And I think some of those funds could also be used for Father P. or the North Park or the fairgrounds or wherever you want to use it at. This is also reflecting saving money for the capital improvement plan. So if we have 5-year goals of major projects, we can dip into that. We can also dip into it for smaller scale projects like the disc golf course or whatever we want to talk about. I'm not sure that $125,000 is labeled.
So the $125,000 that was referenced for the lake, I mean, that's a department budget.
Mm-hmm.
So that covers, like a staff member, maintenance out of the lake, and things like that. And the lake does generate some funds. I mean, obviously not enough to support $125,000 for the whole budget, but I just want to let you guys know that that does include staff time to mow and, take care of like.
Those are amounts that were listed under capital outlay.
Okay, and then all, for the park, we have a department that supports somebody's salary too. Yes, okay, and then on the, the special projects part of it, Thatcher.
The last big project out at the lake was the master plan. I don't think a whole heck of a lot has been spent out there. There's a lot of disagreement on the lake. My argument has been, well, let's focus on what can generate revenue, what can bring tourists there, whether that be the disc golf or whatever we want to look at in the future. But really, even in that special projects fund, there's about $5,000 dedicated just for the lake. So the most we could really spend out there hypothetically is $5,000 on a project next year.
And if you look at the general detail page of that capital outlay, you have it broken down a little bit farther. So you have, what we had proposed for this year was $15,000 in $49,940 was to the capital improvement plan, and $25,000 was to the equipment reserve. And that is the $125,000 capital outlay line for 2024 in the general fund.
And it does not include the opportunity again to apply for CDBG grants for park improvements or anything like that. So
And the dollar amounts can stay the same. We could rename those lines to be for grants or to be for, I guess I'm speaking for you. Thatcher felt strongly that we invest into the capital improvement plan that can cover a variety of different projects or needs or repairs instead of, earmarking it per se for these things. So that is why we put the 50, the biggest chunk of it to capital improvement.
And that
Did I say that right?
that can start to save for projects like a raw water line that feeds this entire community all the way out to the lake that is in pretty much disrepair. And the only way you're going to pay for that is probably with the big chunk is a down payment out of capital improvement, and then figuring a way to bond it out or raising rates for folks that live in this community. So there's large-scale projects like that. There's large-scale street projects. We have a large-scale sewer project that's going to cost close to $1 million more than it was supposed to cost a few years ago. I think this is a strong way to prepare us for the future.
Every one of us that's been elected up here spend a lot of time on the budget.
mm-hmm.
And we do take it seriously because we have to live with the budget, what we sign. It's a shame we had 2 people coming off commission. We had 2 people running. We need people to run for commission. If you want to sit out there and criticize us, run for it and get up there and help us. I think Thatcher and Megan put a hard budget to us. I'm fine with you want to tweak it a little for the September 1st. I'm right between 85 and 87, 88. I'm fine with that because I know we need still to get stuff done.
Mm-hmm.
And I never want to raise rates, but I don't have a choice this year if you want to keep the city moving forward.
And to touch on that, I would like to see what are some of the big picture projects that the city can see out of next year's budget. Even if it's a 10,000-foot view and it's not a guarantee, I'd like to have some kind of list of what those big picture projects could be next year. What are we actually planning to do? Because Carl's right. We don't know what it is. Not even us can say that that's what we're going to spend the money on. So let's give the answers. What are we planning those big picture projects on?
Thatcher, what is your recommendation?
To touch on that really quick, I think following through with this comprehensive plan and getting that done, and then I think this immediately upon approval of that, I think the focus of this city, this community, and this commission should be to complete a capital improvement plan. So when we are saving in the capital improvement fund in the future, we're identifying these major projects: streets, roads, infrastructure, parks, projects that can't be really budgeted for because they would require so much budget that we frankly won't have next year or the year after unless we see substantial growth in this community. My recommendation is for staff to review the budget a little bit more, see where we can potentially trim it down, get a draft budget published for the community to review one final time, and then come back in the first meeting in September and present this budget.
Does this commission want another special meeting, or you want to wait till staff does it first?
I would prefer staff to review it, make whatever other cuts they have heard from feedback, and we have a second public hearing.
Ben?
What are we asking?
if you want to staff review and bring it back to
Oh, yes,
us.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm sorry, I thought that was a recommendation.
We're just trying to get consensus. Deb?
What's your question? Do we want another special meeting?
Do you want the staff review first, bring it to us, and then if we need a special meeting afterwards?
Yes, that's what I want.
Dan?
I have another question. Something just jumped out at me. And I know we had several workshops, but I did not have a completed budget to look at. I just have a question. The pool's open, what, 3 months out of the year? Maybe 4? Why do we have salaries of $40,000 for something that's open 3 months out of the year?
Well, I don't know exactly how many people work there, like, daily, but I know several people work shifts.
And I imagine there's some excess built into that for whether you have 10 guards or you have 18 guards. I know that money adds up pretty quickly, and I think our pool has pretty long hours aside from swim lessons and, dang near a full-time manager in the summer.
Part of this is our own fault. Because when we went through these budget workshops, yes, several of us did say, oh yeah, let's add 1,000 here, let's add 2,500 there. Well, when you do that, and then you look at the whole thing, it's like, oh my God, what have we created? $1,000 here and $1,000 there doesn't seem a whole lot, but when you go through each department and you give them, well, we'll give them an extra $1,000 for this. Okay, we'll give them $25,000 to buy a vehicle. By the time you get it all added up, you got $200,000-$300,000 that you just added to your budget.
And then add to the pool, it does bring in revenue of about $20,000. So I understand that it doesn't cover, the whole cost of it, but we spend.
I'm a big proponent, and if you're spending money on something, it should be paying for itself or generating funds. If not, you're just pouring money down the drain. I understand all the communities like to have a pool, and all the kids like to have a pool, and all the people like to have a pool, but at some point, someone has to make that hard decision, and you say, you know what? This thing's costing us projected, and I'm just going strictly off of what's here, projected $83,000 for next year. And it brought in, okay, let's say it brings in $30,000 next year. We just dumped $53,000 down the drain. And we're going to continue to do that? At some point, and I'm just using the pool as an example, but at some point, this stuff has to, and we need to start working on next year's budget as soon as this one gets approved. Because, I'm sorry, we had 3 budget workshops, yes. They were several hours each, yes. Did we all do work at home? Yes. But I can almost guarantee you, nobody's seen this document before a couple days ago. This is the first time I've seen this. And it scares the living daylights out of me. So, in answer to your earlier question, Megan, I will not be comfortable with anything. I understand the need to raise funds. I get it. I will not be comfortable with anything over 85. That is my top dollar amount, 85, that's it. And I would hope we could keep it under that. Because I think there's a lot of fat that we put in here of our own fault that we need to go back through and seriously look at and say, do we really need that much money there? And if we end up cutting some and then putting some more in, I'm going to call it savings. I know the city can't technically have a savings account, but if we can move some of that extra money somewhere else that we can still have it if something comes up and we need it. The one thing I know we need to fund is that raw water line going out to the lake. That thing's a catastrophe. Every 2 months, we got to spend another $10,000 to fix mile 4 of this thing because it sprung a leak. That thing just needs to be replaced. I get it.
It probably has to go out for a bond issue or something to even physically get it done.
And the other thing we need to realize is the county is going to be asking for a minimum of a 0.25% sales tax increase this November. So not only are we asking the citizens to fork out more money for us, the county's going to ask for more money. And then in January, oh, guess what? Our electric bills are going to go up because the city commission 2 years ago said, oh yeah, we can raise them 3.5% or whatever it is every January. So we need to look at the big picture, not just the budget, on what we are asking people to pay for. Yes, I live in town and I got to pay what everybody else has to pay. I don't want to pay all this. I don't. To be totally honest with you, I don't think Herington's worth this kind of money. I know that's a sad thing to say for people that have lived here their whole life, but I'm not ready to vote on it. I think it needs a lot more work, and I apologize for if people thinks I wasted their time, but after looking at this, I'm not even close to happy with it.
I'd make a recommendation that the city commissioners, not only staff, but the city commissioner also do another final review. Staff put together their final recommendation, and we schedule a new public hearing as long as the public has had the 10 days to review what staff is recommending. So that'll be my recommendation.
And which stats are, would you agree, do you think?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, if the commissioners want to send via email or call some sort of a list of where they think specifically their problem areas are, we'll dive into it. I'm not going to initially guarantee that I'll recommend a cut in that area, but I will commit to looking at whatever the commission wants us to look at in the next few weeks. And ultimately, maybe I'll say, yeah, we can cut a little bit there, or no, I talked to the department head and they spent this much last year, they're projecting to spend this much this coming year, and we can't do it. So, I mean, but I would like some guidance. If you see something in the budget you're concerned about, my phone's open, Megan's phone's open, our emails are open. Feel free to call us or text us, and that goes for the community too. So that's why we're here tonight. I had no intention of encouraging us to approve this or squeeze this through. We have some time to work on it some more, and we will.
I appreciate it.
Robin?
Yes.
I have a request. Thatcher, when you receive any recommendations from any commissioners, that you compile those into a list and share them with all commissioners so that we all know what each other is asking you to do.
If they come in individually and we put it together and send it back out, that's...
Coming very close.
Right.
I think you're more than coming close.
Depends on what the content is. But
Right.
I would be, it's a good idea, and I understand why Commissioner Bonick wants it done that way, but I'd let me think about a better way to do that than just a straight up distribution of those, because I think we get into serial.
Yeah, my concern is that in the past we've had individual commissioners make somewhat demanding requests, and the staff has accommodated that, but those requests may not have been the same opinion of the majority of the commissioners. I want to find a way that whatever you can do, that if we have to have a special meeting to say out loud what our requests are, that we all know somehow what each of us is requesting.
If there's a lot of changes, well, you're going to have a special meeting. But if you tweak it a little bit, is anybody comfortable with that? Let review it first.
Staff definitely would have to make a review. I'm a little leery, and I understand what Commissioner Bonick's trying to get at, and I share some of that same concern. I'm just a little leery that being shared outside of an open meeting. So,
Well, we'll figure it out, and Brad will guide us in what the proper procedure we need to do.
I mean, I can document general concerns and general questions and try to answer those general concerns and questions at the upcoming budget hearing.
or an upcoming meeting or other setting. That way it's done as a public discussion at the end. You could compile all that and then make a report.
Is there anything else on the public hearing? Carl?
Real quick request. The airfield that we have, have we ever made any claims to be active?
So,
I just got a recommendation, and it's kind of spitball thing, but in Germany, we bought a flight on a little Cessna. We took it down around the lake, showed us all around the 30-minute flight, and we came back with like €50, about $60. If we could get people to store their planes out there, and actually give rides on the weekends, that's just an idea to work with. I don't know what kind of liability that would be for the city attorney to work out, but I'm not sure if there'll be a liability waiver saying, hey, if we decide to go down and call a fire or whatever. We're not gonna hold you responsible.
Megan, you want to comment on the?
I didn't know if that would get going or something.
I'm not so much about the tours, I don't know about that, but we do have planes that are housed out there,
Okay.
that, farmers or sprayers or people with planes, is there a left?
They're trying to get up to 11. They're also wanting to expand more hangars for more people out there to store.
but in addition to that, there have been specific requests made at previous work sessions for additional improvements as well to the area, not just for the hangars. Actually make it worth somebody wanting to take a plane out there.
And Carl, just for your knowledge, it's also been approved for the Forest Service and stuff to use as a staging point for fires and such to that, so.
They can fill the tanker up
Yeah,
there.
they can land tankers and fill them there and then, so.
Do we have a running MOA with that?
They're in the means of it doing it right now.
They're in the process of putting it together, but right now there's an understanding if they need to land to fill up, it's not a fast fill, because they're filling, I think, off of a 2-inch line.
They're
For
filling
now.
off a hose, but they're
For now, they have a project.
they
that
have a
they're wanting
process
to
of
do.
putting a line out there.
Yeah, so that is in the works, and that's going to come out of the airport funds, but just in addition to your question, they are using that as an active water fill point for range fires and whatnot.
And Carl, on top of that, the money that is received out the airport has to stay at the airport. Unfortunately, it cannot come into town and be used for anything in town. All of that has to be used at the airport too.
Right, and that
So.
would be just, if people were able to take
Right.
it was just generate revenue for the airport, but that's different.
It could potentially be a whole nother business that even operates out of the airport. You're right. Anybody that's got a pilot license that wants to have a business, there's a good place for you to recruit them to.
Is there any more on the public hearing for the 2024 budget? I'm going to close the budget hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing for 901 East Arnold, Lot 1, Herington, Kansas. Is the owner here? Okay.
An agent is.
Are you representing Mr. Freeman?
Oh, no, I think the question would have to be a definitive. Okay.
James?
Let me inquire, just to be sure. With his authority and knowledge, is he asked you to serve as his agent? Okay.
It's just so that we have a record of who the other party in the process is. Are we doing the individual plots or?
We have to do each one.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're doing.
Lot 1 first.
Lot 1 first.
Yes.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
I'm not even sure if that's working, to be honest with you.
Do what?
I'm not even sure if it's working, to be honest with you.
Speak from the diaphragm, young man.
Here we go. Okay, so the timeline that I got here actually runs for all of 3 structures in this year, because it's kind of how it all started out with one structure and just kept compiling until we hit the stop work order with the no permits. So on January 17th, I received a complaint about a house being moved in out of the mobile home park. Inspected that, took photos. On February 28th,
I received a second complaint about a manufactured house that had been moved in. That first one was lot 1. The second one that was moved in was lot 19. The mobile home that sits on lot 19. March 16th, complaint about yard, road violation.
Mr. Masters, I'm going to slow you down for a second. He's got to focus on lot 1, right?
Yes. He
So
can
we-
go ahead and do this though, chronology,
Okay.
at least initially, he's doing that just by way of background.
I just want to make sure that I understand what's going on here. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
So on March 23rd, I spoke with Zach about violations, and at that time I reminded him that he needed building and electrical and plumbing and mechanical permits for the 2 structures that he had moved in. March 28th, received another complaint, third manufactured home moved in, no permits, inspected, took photos. On April 4th, which was a commissioner meeting night, was the night that we actually adopted the manufactured home ordinance, limiting the age and qualifications for manufactured homes, inspections, permits, that type of stuff. That night, that day I wrote a stop work order for the lots 1, 19, and 23, and I served Zach with that there, telling him that we needed permits, and he was not allowed to work on these structures. The City Commission granted a continuance on May 2nd to Zach's appeal of that stop work order. And on May 16th, the Commission continued that hearing on the stop work order till June 6th. And ordered Zach on May 16th to have permits by the end of the week. Still have not received permits. I have received some permits, but they have been incomplete. And I asked for the information that we need to make it permit complete, and we've never ever heard anything back. And so, July 19th, presented the properties on the dangerous structures. We went over those. I got photos again tonight, and I'll go through each lot as we go through the hearing on this here, on these dangerous structures. That was the night that the Commission passed the resolution. The resolution has been published twice in the paper, and the owners of the mobile home park, Herington Park, have signed for their copy of the resolution also.
Can you go back and tell me when we first issued the stop work order, when we did the extension so they could get permits, what the date on that was?
So,
Because I know we issued the stop work order April 4th,
right, April 4th, I served Zach with the stop work order on the structures.
and then we extended it to, I believe, May.
Yes, so he appealed it. He appealed the stop work order, and I brought it to the City Commission on May the 2nd, and the Commission granted a continuance till May 16th.
And that was to allow him to get permits, correct?
Yes, and on May 16th, the Commission continued the hearing on the stop work order, the appeal of that stop work order to June 6th. And I also informed him to have permits by the end of the week.
The end of the week of 5/16.
June of May 6th.
Okay.
May 16th, yes, by the end of the week of May 16th, so May 23rd. It's been 7 days.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Was the ordinance adopted for manufactured homes retroactive, or were they for current and future?
I have not any permits for these structures yet, and, we gave Zach plenty of opportunities to get these here, permits, and now it's kind of the point where I feel like he's in violation of our manufactured home, because we do not have any permits yet.
He had an
No
oppor-
inspections on it.
He had an opportunity to fill out permits before this ordinance was ever ratified. He said in a public meeting on multiple occasions, or on one occasion, that he would have the permits in and filled out the following week. And I believe he appeared again, or I talked to him on the phone, and it was kind of the same story all along of it'll be coming, we'll have it coming, we'll be in to do those permits, and, you know, nothing ever happened. So I think had the permits been filled out before this ordinance was ratified, which there was ample time to do, I would be a little more understanding of not enforcing the ordinance, but at this point, they're in clear violation.
I appreciate both comments. That didn't answer my question. Did it encompass the property or the buildings that were already present at the date the ordinance was adopted, or is it not retroactive?
So a law exam question. You've got an extra catch in that.
Mm-hmm.
What they're answering is correct. If permits had been pulled, you pulled permits under the current law. The current law at the time the permits could have been pulled was before this was adopted. Those permits have never been pulled. If they're pulled now, it applies. So the point being that at this point, you got it.
Okay.
You know, taking them in there unlawfully or doing so without appropriate permitting puts them in there illegally. So they don't get any potential grandfathering unless you had permitted prior to the passage of that new ordinance. Okay?
That's the answer I was looking for. Thank you.
And I think there is a fourth home in there that we excluded from this that already has somebody living in it that was missed, but.
Yeah. And that was my deal doing there. I didn't realize he had moved one in there and dripping skirting off of mobile homes going out today. Counted, there are 9 manufactured homes out there with incomplete skirting around them, which is over half, over 50%. There's only 16 manufactured homes in the park. I went ahead and passed did the inspection on the electrical for the hookup for it, and didn't even realize that he had moved that thing in there, set it in there, It was after that, when he moved the second one in, that I found out about the other one, and I was like, hey, so here's the deal, you do need permits for this type of stuff. So, today I did an inspection on lot 1. Manufactured mobile home park.
And this is the one on the furthest west on the north side? Is that right? Okay.
Yes, this is the very first one that you will see when you come into the park, right at Arnold on the west drive.
Okay.
This is lot 1 right here. Still no skirting underneath that. No egress here. Windows are open on it. So I don't really constitute this a secure structure. Windows open here. I don't see any tie downs on this structure anywhere where this structure is being tied down. Also, this window here is open. As you can see here, it is open on the end here of the structure. And I took these photos this morning. There was nobody around. This pile of stuff here has been here the whole time. Once again, I still can't see any tie downs. No egress here to come in and out. The windows are open on the structure. Let's see. So this structure, if it was actively being worked on, had permits and stuff, and to me right now, it is a hazard in the community because of the fact that there is no skirting around this thing. And I got to thinking today, it was hot, and children were looking for a cool place to play. That's one place that they would be going. They would be seeking to go underneath there and play around, and it's just a dangerous situation.
What's the year on this mobile home?
I do not know what the year on this mobile home is something that I am requiring if they do get a permit for this here mobile home, that they put the manufacturer date and the model number on the permit.
Brad, are we just going discovery on just the one at a time?
At this point, the overview is one thing, but as the question was earlier, each of these is really a separate hearing for purposes to make it relatively easy to track and follow for all parties concerned, including any presentation on behalf of the owner. I would suggest that this is the city's presentation of what the problem or the issues are, and then allow the owner response, any proposal, any thoughts as to what they're looking to do, would propose to do, asking you to consider. That can take one at a time.
I would like to ask James, since these were moved in without a moving permit and you were not notified about them being moved in, were you able to inspect underneath this to see if they were adequately strapped down?
No, I just bought photos. That's been it. I've not been asked to look at the structures, and before I approve a permit, I would want to, according to the building codes, when something's moved in like that, you have that opportunity to inspect it before you approve a permit, even before it's ever moved here to the city of Herington. That's part of the building codes that we have.
Is there any more you want to add to this one?
No.
Would you like to please state your name and where you live and discuss this one?
Jesse Denham, and I live at Lot 6 in Herington, Kansas.
And you are the agent for the owner of this property?
I'm the property manager,
Okay.
park manager.
Do you have a redress or an address back?
Well, I mean, the windows are open. I didn't know we couldn't have windows open, because it's 115 degrees outside, and I'm not going in the house. It's hot. We've been spraying all the properties because we've been having problems. So, I mean, they have been open for a while now, but it's also summer, and I would do the same thing in my house. I would open my windows if I just cleaned it and sprayed it and did everything that we were doing in there.
So is there active construction going on in these homes?
Right now we are trying to put heating tape on everything because it is August. And there was skirting on most of the houses out there, and then we ripped them off.
When did you guys do that?
I'd have to look back, but it's been a couple months.
Okay.
In
And
my house, I lived in another home. It had skirting up until, I want to say July.
So, permitting, why haven't the owner or you have gotten permits on this stuff?
To be honest, I just kind of got thrown this deal. I mean, I've been at the park and I've been kind of helping, but I just now got the title, or the title is the management. And I don't deal with those things. I was here today trying to get permits. We're lacking a few things on the thing because I do not have that paperwork. And so, there's no excuse.
So
It's kind of like I'm their person who's my boss.
and
I'm just doing as I'm told.
just here recently is when you got thrown into doing as told.
Excuse me, what?
Just here recently is when you got thrown into doing as you are told.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you are here as the agent of the owner. And if you are inside doing anything, you are in violation of a stop work order that was issued over 4 months ago. The owner has had over 3 months to apply for permits. Okay, and I feel really bad for you that he has put you in this position, because he has put you in a very untenable position. Because now you have to answer for his inactions and or possibly illegal actions, because he was issued a stop work order and there's work continues to be done. By issuance of a stop work order, there's not even supposed to be anybody going in there. So
Her next question is how could she remedy the stop work order? And that's a question that I think this commission will have to answer.
Well, they could have done it very simply. When he was given a extension on 5/16 to apply for permits by the end of the week, he could have very easily done so. He chose not to. It's been over 3 months since that date, and he still has chosen not to apply for permits. Excuses no longer work. He's just saying, giving us what Dan Bongino would call the double middle barrel finger. He's just looking at us and saying, you know what, go jump in the lake. Because I can do whatever I want, and there's nothing you guys can do about it. Well, that needs to stop tonight. We need to do something. Because issues like that are a possible reason why we have people in town missing their kitty cats and their chickens. So that's a great place for foxes and raccoons and things to go hide during the day when it's hot, and then come out at night and go hunting. Because we have stuff like this within the city limits, breeds critters to come in and hide. And we don't need this kind of stuff in town. We have enough issues. We don't need to have this stuff.
Ms. Denham, you said you were at City Hall today trying to get permits. Were you trying to get a permit on this property?
Yes.
And what were you
Several
missing?
others.
And what were you missing on this property?
The make and model, and then we were requested today, that we have to go find the owner manuals, not owner, I don't know what they're called, the manuals that tell exactly how that property has to sit. And some of these houses are old enough, I'm gonna have to do research to find manuals from houses that are 15+ years old.
So this house is over, this manufactured home is over 15 years old.
I'm not exactly sure in that house, I'm just saying, I don't know exactly how old because I don't have the proper documents stating how old, I'm just saying, I'm gonna have to do research. We were just told this morning that we have to have the proper, by that manufacturer, how to place it on there for.
It has to be strapped down for the manufacturer's code.
Yeah.
Right.
And then he told me I had to get the manual because I had to go by the manual of that specific thing. They're all different, because they're all different makes, models. It's gonna take me a minute, but I also do understand it's been a minute, so. I'm not saying that any different than what you're saying.
Does Ben or Deb have a question to do what? Do Commissioner Bonnick or Castleberry have questions?
Ben, do you have any comment on the 901 North E Lot 1?
I do not know.
Deb?
It's, if I heard right, they're just now today trying to apply for permits and do what was asked of them several months ago. And I believe that was the same situation that we fell into the last hearing. They started working on the property the day of the hearing. So, how are we going to continue this path that, they wait till the final hour when we're ready to make a decision to finally move or take action? In my opinion, that's unacceptable.
Do you have any more comments on the lot number 1? Does anybody have any comments on lot number 1 for the public? I move to close the public hearing on 901 East Arnold Lot 1. I'm going to open a public hearing on 901 East Arnold Lot 19. James?
What time is it? Just so that Megan's got the time for it. 7:14. All right.
So how we got to this point where we are today is the same as what I spoke of earlier. This is lot 19, photos taken today. Back here.
Just for my reference, where's lot 19 on this property?
Okay, so lot 19 is in the back about the middle.
Okay.
Okay. Of the property, which would be the south side, about the middle of the property.
Okay, thank you.
So this is lot 19 right here. tell if it's strapped down, but I can see the windows are open, and still no egress right here. Windows are open here and there. This side does not have proper egress either. No steps and handrails and things like that. The windows, once again, are open. I call this unsecure, you know. Just left like that. You know, it's 8 o'clock in the morning when I did my inspection. Once again, I feel like this structure here is a danger to the community.
714.
Not knowing whether it's fastened down and not knowing and not having proper egress and the windows being open, no skirting around it. You know, this is a dangerous structure.
James, can you zoom back into the center there so I can get a little bit better? Okay. Is that like the base of that trailer that we're able to see?
Right here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's actually seen through the siding into the trailer.
Okay.
That's the siding. The siding's rotted away right there.
Is that the same as when the corner, the front corner, if you pan out? That very corner right there where you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay.
Same thing.
And then the roof,
And the other structure was very similar to this
Is
here.
that- all those red spots, is that repair on the roof, or is that, I know you didn't go on the roof, or does that look like,
It looks like
in
rust
your
spots.
opinion, does that look like rust?
It looks like rust spots. I saw some things above these windows that, I think you're gonna be able to see it right here, but I'm not sure what was going on above these windows here either, you know. Just looked like it's all rotted away.
It looks like it's just wood rot from one.
Yeah. And the other photos and front ones, I have said very similar stuff.
And without actually being there and seeing it, just in the picture, that's what it appears to be, is wood rot from that raining. But it looks like the whole side of that mobile home is rotting through. And you can actually see to the inside of the trailer from there.
You see, like behind the trailer, you know.
So you can actually see the frame and stuff of the trailer. So.
Yeah, you see right there.
Is there anything else you have on this?
I do want to make one comment about the manufacturer's recommendations. Without actually seeing a set of plans on, you know, I don't need a whole owner manual or anything like that. All these mobile homes have a date that they were manufactured and a model number and stamped in a couple different places on the manufacturer. All of them. And I have a new manufacturer come to me, and someone comes to me for a permit. They have that information. They provide manufacturer's recommendations. Setting that, whether it's set on the ground and tied down on piers and stuff, or whether it's put on a permanent foundation, whether it's a perimeter foundation, or whether it's a pier foundation. If it's a pier foundation, they'll have how many piers and exactly where they're supposed to be and stuff. That's what the manufacturer uses to warranty their mobile homes. And that's about all I got to go by on the placement. Someone sets it. That's all I have to go by. Building code does not cover it.
Does not Kansas have minimum requirements for
I think
security?
that they do through HUD, the Kansas manufacturer.
Would you like to comment on this, please? Would you comment on this one, please?
The windows, nobody's been in that since the day it was moved in. I don't don't remember what day it was moved in exactly. I was not here when that one got moved in, but nobody has mentioned that I know of. You may have, but before me coming in, I don't know.
Can I ask you, do you think that's livable?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask what your intention is on that?
What, like,
Are you repairing it? Are you demolishing it? Is this a storage unit? I mean, what is it?
it's supposed to be refurbished, to my knowledge. I don't deal with that stuff, he does. So my understanding would be he moved it in to get it up to code and rebuild it, whatever it needs to make livable. That'd be my understanding.
And I know you're thrown into this, but sitting where we're sitting, what do you think we should do with that?
Well, like I said, I think that we are beyond that limit. Like he said, that we have passed the due dates, the deadlines, so I think up in the air.
Is there any more comments on 109 East Arnold, Lot 19? Ben?
No.
Deb?
Debbie, any other comments?
Well, sorry about that. No comments.
Anybody else want to speak on behalf of the 109 Lot 19? State your name and where you live.
I'm Kim Ditto-Bell. I live at 801 West Trapp Street, Herington, Kansas. These trailers, were they moved in during the day, moved in during nighttime? How did they just appear?
I've personally seen one on a Sunday. That's the only one I seen moved in. I was traveling, but I did see it pull in on a Sunday night, evening.
And I know that there's been two old men that have been working from Wichita that have been working on these trailers. Because we've seen them numerous times. And they've come into East and they've told us that's what they were doing, working at the trailer park. We only have one, right? So I assume it's these trailers.
Go ahead.
Can I say something on that? Did they specifically say these numbers of trailers? Because like he stated, we have multiple trailers and half of them are not being questioned about. So were they specifically working on those? Because then we're getting into the fact that two old men said they were doing work at the trailer park. Did they say, oh, I was working on number 1 or 19? Because then that gets him in a pickle, not working on those. How can they specifically say what number they were working on?
I mean, it
Kim,
really doesn't
Legal,
matter.
like, we can get in trouble for that. Like, if somebody was in there and like she's stating, oh, well, we've seen people, can you identify what trailers?
Well,
Because that's our legal butts that are in trouble, not theirs.
but you're supposed to be out there monitoring what's happening at the trailer court.
But like I said, this one was moved in before I came in. How am I supposed to be out there monitoring? And so if they're there working, I do monitor them. And the two old men that she's talking about were putting lights outside of our residents' houses.
Okay.
To
We're talking about 19 right now, so.
Exactly. So I'm asking why her question is if they were working out there, because she doesn't know it was 19.
It's just a general public question.
So I'm just
Is there anything else on 109 East Arnold, Lot 19? I'm going to close the public hearing on 109 East Arnold, Lot 19, and open the public hearing on 109 East Arnold. On the agenda is 19. It should be 23. Lot 23. James? I'm blocking you.
Once again, the photos I took once again this morning. This is lot 23 right here. And this window is open. Really can't tell if there's any tie downs on it. This one here sits in the back on the south side.
Thank you.
Towards the east side of the mobile home park would be almost the last mobile home in that line.
Thank you.
There's one more mobile home just east of this one right here.
Thank you.
Is the road blocked off in front of one of these?
I think it's moved around. I have some photos of it. They've laid some cinder blocks out there, and some ties.
I know it's not our road, but
This structure here, and it's kind of, on occasions I have seen this door blowing in the wind with nobody around. This particular day, it was shut, but I have seen it wide open before. Still unable to tell if there's tie downs back in here, had a good view of it right there. This side here, windows open. It's a little dark to tell if there's tie downs, but I don't believe
that's a tie down hanging down, but it's not attached to anything, looks like.
Yeah.
Just for reference, these pictures are not from January 5th, 2013.
No, these are not.
All right.
These were taken today. I messed with my camera Friday, and I must have messed the date up on it.
Okay.
And I realized that late this afternoon. Now I go around and take a whole bunch of new pictures.
Just checking.
Another window open. Door's open on this one. This is the first time I've seen the door open on this side. Don't know why it was open, but it was unsecured. Not sure what's going on over here, other than the window's gone out of it. Looks like some rock going over above the door. There's another window here. Another window in the back that's open. Once again, this structure does not have any skirting around it. It's a great invitation for youngsters to come in and it's what they call an attractive nuisance. Yeah. For children. Consider this a dangerous structure, especially with the door being open.
I have a question for Brad. I know this is private property, but what is specifically this one with an open door, what kind of legal jeopardy could that possibly put the city in if, let's say, a child or even an adult would happen to wander in here and subsequently get hurt? Is there any way that we can be held liable for injury upon this private property?
No, because we're not maintaining a dangerous instrumentality. The fact that we're aware of it, we take action on that, but there's an immunity clause in state statute that keeps us from necessarily having direct liability for that. Generally, all of that falls to the property owner. So it's very similar to you decide to put a pool in your backyard, you don't fence it, even though we require that you do so, and someone falls in and drowns. Is it our problem because we didn't go ahead and put a fence up same day? No.
Okay, I'm just, my concern with that is we've let this drag on for months now, and I would just hate for them to be able to use the argument, well, they've had over 3 months to do something and they haven't, so I'm just...
It's more of a perception issue. It appears, you're right, at some point in terms of enforcement, the jurisdictional authority, which is us, is dilatory if we don't at least address it, which is what we're attempting to do now. Is that necessarily a precursor or a condition precedent to us having liability? No, but it also, and we're not doing our job if we're not going ahead and keeping the general public.
You can understand my nice.
Yeah, I do.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Health, safety, welfare is what we're all about.
Right, and that's one of my
Oh,
large
yeah.
concerns, especially when you have a important item.
Where's one at?
Well, the other issue, having dealt with it in multiple cities over the years, the part of the reason for those manuals also was, which James was mentioning, and also
in the
the property manager, is each of these, depending on whether it's a double wide or a single, depending upon how it was constructed, has a certain requirement for hurricane or tie-down straps, and how far apart they can be, what tensile steel requirements there are, how they have to be attached, all of that, and that's done because they're to, under state and federal requirements, survive a certain wind speed, direct, straight line, or otherwise. And these things become missiles if they can be lifted up entirely as they are and thrown God knows where on top of whatever, and so.
In conditions like this, parts of them can become
Right.
missiles as well.
And so having them secured, no different than you put in a shed in your backyard, and now we've got those Connex boxes and all of those different things that are coming into cities. That's the whole reason for those ordinance requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Would you like to comment on the lot 23?
The doors, I mean, I don't have anything to say.
Are you,
What can I see that?
is this another one of the properties that you tried to get a permit on?
Yes,
And the intention is to fix it?
yes.
And at what time frame?
I can't give you a specific on that. I'm not gonna give you a date and then it not pass, or it's gonna pass that, so I'm just gonna say I don't have a date.
James, I have a follow-up question for you. Have all three of these been here since March? Or have some moved in since March? Or do you remember?
March 28th is when the third, when I heard about the third one.
Okay,
They've
so
all
they've
been
all-
here
Since the 28th of March?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Denham, how long would it take you to research the things that you were asked for by the city? If you actually diligently worked on it, how long do you think it would take you?
If I did all the research and figured out how to do this, 2 weeks, because I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what I'm doing.
Okay.
So I'm having help, I'm calling people, the lady that was with me here today, she's trying to do it, like I said, I was just kind of thrown into this, just because I live there, type thing, and I guess I was the best candidate for, because I'm the only English speaking person there, to be honest. So, maybe 2 weeks to get all the information that I need, make models, and what his intentions are. But I cannot guarantee after I get this information that anything will happen afterwards. I'm not the builder, I'm not the,
We appreciate you at least coming and talking to us.
Can I just ask a question? You may not know the answer. How come he is not here? How come the owner is not here?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I
Fair
really,
enough, fair enough
I
answer.
really don't know.
I didn't know if he had a family emergency or if something had come up and he knew this was coming up and just needed somebody to come in his stead.
I'm not gonna tell his business, but yes, there was things that came up, but that's still not an excuse. I'm not an excuse kind of person. I don't know what he's thinking and why he's not here. I'm here because number one, if something happens, I'm homeless, if you don't have parks, so.
Well,
You know,
it could, I'm not saying it would, but it could influence decisions if, for example, his mother went into the hospital and he had to suddenly leave town for a family emergency. I'm not saying that would have an impact, but it could. But if he chose just not to be here because, again, he's given us the middle finger, again, that will have an impact, not good, that will have an impact on certain decisions. So I was just curious if you knew that. That's all.
Jessica, were you asked by him to come tonight on his behalf?
was I asked?
Yeah.
Not per se. He said we have a meeting on the 22nd and everything that's going on. I just said, okay, I'll come down here.
Okay.
And I didn't know if you'd show up for a few minutes. So I'm here. And
Probably the one and only time you'll ever be here, right?
I've been here one other time.
She's been here before. Okay.
Is there any more comments? Any more comments?
I do, please.
Okay. Does she have one?
No.
speaking, representing this mobile home park. I appreciate your time and energy that you're putting into this. And I feel that this is no reflection on you or what you're expected to do at this mobile home park. I feel that this all lies on the owner and his lack of interest in following the city's guidelines and requests. And I just feel strongly that all of this goes back to the owner and his lack of action on any of the requests from the get-go on this.
Is there any more comment on 901 East Arnold, Lot 23? Janet, state your name.
I live just down the street from here, and I'm all for developing more housing in Herington, but honestly, I don't see that any of these three are going to be able to be made into habitable homes in a reasonable period of time at any reasonable cost, and they constitute a hazard, an eyesore, and if the owner is not stepping up to take responsibility and come and pledge action, I think it's time to move to the next step.
Is there any more comments? Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing on 901 East Arnold, Lot 23. Thank you for your time. Agenda number 12, discuss further action on 901 East Arnold, Lot 1.
Jessica, just for reference, we're going to discuss each one of these in a potential resolution.
Staff is at the point where we feel like we've extended goodwill on multiple occasions. I had, lack of a better words, we had a kumbaya with Zach Freeman. After the first round, back in April, I asked Zach in an open meeting, will he have building permits pulled by the next meeting? That never happened. I talked to him on the phone. I felt like we've had productive conversations where we say, Zach, you gotta pull these permits. We have to get building permits. And he said, well, I didn't understand that part of the code, or we didn't have to do that here. And we explained, well, here's where we're at right now, and this is what you have to do right now in order to bring these into compliance. Zach's wife, Nina, has reached out on numerous occasions. Both James and I have tried to work with her directly and explain to her the scenario that we need. But I think there's an issue with reputable contractors wanting to work on these homes due to the condition they're in. And I don't think that's going to change a week from now, a month from now, or 6 months from now. I'll let Brad speak to, what the scenarios are if we move forward tonight. But I think even if you did move forward, and perhaps the information was given to city staff, and perhaps, building permits were filed, there might be a chance to turn this around, but frankly, at this point right now, as I said earlier, they're in violation of our mobile home ordinance, and, the period of when they could have avoided that scenario ended back in the 26th of April, when this was ratified.
Brad, what's the next step that we need to?
These are a little unique in that they're mobile in nature, and they're not stick-built homes. If you think about what we traditionally do when we're dealing with a residential property that's distressed, James goes ahead and writes the letter, does the initial punch list, may or may not have access to the inside, hasn't had the access to the inside of these. We don't even have them fully plumbed or all the utilities in place, so we can't even really double check to see if all of that's in proper order. So what you see is what you get here. The standard that we typically use for demolition is it going to cost more than 50% of the generally appraised value of once it meets code to bring it to that standard? It would appear that that's probably the case in all three of these, and I think that's what Janet was making a point about, and I think said it well, that it's going to cost more. Now that, again, Mr. Freeman may disagree completely. He may have a way that he does these so economically that clearly he's been motivated to get them and move them here and set them up, but nothing is really happening. So they're distressed by that standard. They are non-compliant in terms of the city's code. So you have several options. One of them was the stop work order until you get permits. Well, that's never happened. You can do a cease and desist and just say, these things, I don't know that you can bring them into compliance, and until you prove you can, you don't do anything on them. But that still doesn't solve your ultimate problem that they're still sitting there. So the determination that you make, and that's how I worded the template resolution, is you can direct that a resolution be passed that the owner at this point basically raise them, remove them. And I use both because these can be removed. These can, I think they still have wheels under them, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
As far as we know. I don't know if there is or not.
The first one did not. It didn't appear to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's even an issue.
From
And
the
there's also
appearance in all three,
concern.
it didn't.
Last time I did one of these in another city, it did have wheels under it. They hooked onto it and it went, all four sides just fell out. And it was over right then and there, and the thing had to be demolished. So whether it's capable, they were obviously capable of transporting in, whether they're in a condition where they can be, set up to be moved again, that would be his choice. So if you pass the resolution as it stands right now, it would be on the basis, if you felt, again, that they are so distressed that there's rehabilitation based upon what you've heard doesn't seem practical, using that kind of a standard of 50%, that then they need to come down or be moved out. And that typically we are required to give the property owner a reasonable period of time to do that. Since these are something you hook onto, for example, 30 days is probably not unreasonable. It's different than taking down a house, where you've got to get someone to come in. If you're not going to do it yourself, it takes a while to get them arranged and scheduled. Here, given that that's his business, I assume they have people who could do that, and you can, that standard is up to you. 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, whatever. But this resolution says you either move it out or you take it down. It doesn't say now you repair it. He would have to come back to you for reconsideration, and then you pull this resolution if he wanted to say, no, I really can get these all fixed up and in great shape and very completely appropriate and passable within so and so many days. Please give me that option. You always have the ability to do that until such time as they've been removed. So if you set that standard, okay, you pass that resolution, that's what you're saying. He has so and so long to do it. Let's say you said 60 days. On the 61st day or thereafter, in the resolution, it reserves the right from that point on. We don't have to give notice. And it could be the 63rd day or 180th day. Anytime after that 61st day, the city has the ability to unilaterally exercise self-help, pull them out of there, or take them down. Either one is what I put in here. If you pull them out of there, I'm going to advise you to pull them somewhere like we have on seized property before, and set them somewhere where the charge for storage is something we would assess, but the property owner would have a reasonable time to retrieve them and take them somewhere else, because they're something we can move and hold for a period of time.
We don't want another camper that we got.
What's that? Yeah. Well, we took it. Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Yeah. So on these resolutions I have in my hand, so we have to fill.
No. You would simply say, staff is instructed to go ahead and put the objective information into these. All it is the resolution numbers, the date that James filed his original letter with the city clerk. I already put into these that today was the date of the hearing. The last set that we sent over has the legal for Lot 1, Lot 19, and Lot 23, matching up with the heading for I hope. Yeah, I know it did, because Cameron did that this afternoon. Lot 1, Lot 19, and Lot 23. And then the only other thing, the main thing you have to tell us, how long are you going to give the property owner to take care of these? Whether he moves them out or tears them down.
And there would be one other correction to the resolution.
Yeah, the heading, that's no big deal.
Published once.
We only have to publish once.
James or Thatcher, how many days you recommended?
Do we recommend for what?
I'm
For him to have the opportunity.
duty to,
30 days. That's in line with our ordinance
It is.
on manufactured homes. And I mean, I assume if there's a scenario where, you know, Zachary feels like he's made a lot of progress or made a step in the right direction, I
Yes.
assume there's a period within this 60 days or up to 180
Even in
days.
30, the likelihood is you'll have 2 more meetings. So if he came in having heard all of this and said, I don't want those things taken out of there, and I don't want them torn down, and I don't wish to do it, I want to fix them, he could come in essence, and ask you to reconsider, which you can always do.
so on a motion, you just take resolution, the next sequential number.
Direct that the resolutions be prepared, and then a motion that each in turns, you can do it collectively. 1, 19, and 23 be passed for demolition within the following time frame with the deadline of, and the rest of it we'll fill in.
Motion what he said.
So we
What's
have
the
to do
deadline?
each one right. Or
No, I think you can say that.
Lot 19,
Yeah, that we
one.
want resolutions for all 3, namely number 1, number 19, and number 23, as we have gone through public hearings. Separate resolutions for each, authorize the mayor to sign, publish, because we do have to do that, and give appropriate notice. And the resolution will take care of itself.
The question is what, city staff recommends 30 days. What's the commission's opinion?
My opinion is 30 days. Ben?
30 days is fine, yeah.
Deb? Deb?
She's still there?
I don't know, can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
Debbie.
I recommend the 30 days or whatever, the soonest we can get something moving and be done with this.
Okay.
30 days.
Eric?
I'll make a motion to direct city staff to prepare the resolutions for 901 East Arnold, Lot 1, Lot 19, and Lot 23, ordering the structure be demolished or removed and the property made safe and secure, and direct city staff to incorporate 30 days time or any time thereafter and authorize the mayor's signature.
I'll second it. Further discussion?
Now, you can tell him exactly what Brad said. If he can come up with a plan and he can come in for and ask for reconsideration, he has that ability. But we might take action in 31 days. If it passes.
That's 31 days after publication, correct?
Right.
And he'll receive notice as well, because we're required to.
Any more discussion? Megan?
Commissioner McDonald?
Aye.
Commissioner Castleberry?
Aye.
Commissioner Bonick?
Aye.
Commissioner Beers?
Aye.
Mayor Bell?
Aye. So we go down to 15 now, right?
Yeah. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. Megan?
Commissioner McDonald?
Aye.
Commissioner Castleberry?
Aye.
Commissioner Bonick?
Aye.
Commissioner Beers?
Aye.
Mayor Bell?
Thank you.
I was gonna say no, because nothing good on TV, but I didn't.